Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. And Patrick, it is our 2026 preview episode, looking ahead to kind of the main storylines for 2026. And I think it all kind of comes down to one big theme. Maybe this is a theme that we'll be talking about all season long, but it's kind of obviously don't want to go to negative town with this CPA and worrying about
just go for it. Just go for it. It's
2027 holds. Who knows? It's something we can deal with a year from now in all likelihood, but specifically with the Cubs, like this is that cliff that. I mean, how long is like Jed and even before him, Theo, they talked about these cliffs and there was a cliff coming up in 2021. And now it feels like potentially there's another cliff with Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, Nico Horner, Jameson Tyone, Carson Kelly, so many others. Matthew Boyd. There are a lot of pending free agents for this Cubs team, a Cubs team that is built to win right now, just made the playoffs and is looking to do that again. But I think, what do they do to take advantage of a very clear 2-year window? And also, how do they make sure they avoid it being a cliff? What actions are they going to take? And I don't want to make it seem like they're devoid of talent. There's young talent on this team, and that's something that 2021 did not have. But there's a lot of talent up for, free agency that could be walking at the end of 2026.
The cliff was, I believe, one of Jed's lines after the Darvish trade. Was that when he sort of called out the Tigers, Phillies, another organization, of this idea of sort of running all the way to the edge of the cliff and whether or not you're willing to do that, at what point do you start to build something different and hopefully better? I think this group, I'm not going to call this some sort of like last dance. I don't think this group has accomplished enough. I don't think there's that sort of connection to the city, the way that the prior group obviously had made an indelible mark on franchise history, on baseball history, like period. But I do think it's kind of fascinating of just like, how do they manage that? And we were joking off air, like it feels like a big trade should be coming, but we also felt that way like years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kyle Tucker trade was obviously a blockbuster trade, but just sort of like, but that was less kind of minor league talent. That was more kind of moving. I guess Cam Smith just became major league so quickly that I'm already forgetting that part of it. But just this idea of like, they had a really strong farm system, and some of them have graduated and performed in the majors. Matt Shaw, Cade Horton, Pete Crow Armstrong. Do they do that? Or, we're still sorting out our spring training schedule, but I'm guessing there's going to be some big names still out there. And I'm guessing we're going to be covering free agency in Arizona again, because that seems to be the way the market has unfolded in recent years. And this is how the Cubs position themselves, sort of like hanging around the basket, trying to like get a putback at an easy basket, instead of setting the market and having the big show at the winter meetings.
If they're adding someone like Alex Bregman, it feels like you have to make a trade. That has to be coupled with the trade. Now, I'm not saying it has to be an infielder. I'm just saying there's not enough. I'm saying it, whether it's Ballesteros, Casey, Kevin Alcantara, like these guys have to play. You can't just have them stay in AAA for the rest of their careers. Eventually, their value plummets if you don't play them or move them. and we're getting to that point. I guess we're there.
We're there, yeah.
So you have to make some decisions here. Um, there was, like Kevin Alcantara, I think is an interesting name in the sense like this guy has high upside talent. There are talent evaluators that believe he can be a really good player. Where does he fit on this team? This is a guy that can handle center field. Well, he's not playing center field on the Cubs. Uh,
No.
at some point, you have to get some value for a guy like that. If you add a bat, if you add Alex Bregman, who are you moving? What do you can't just shift everyone to the bench or uh, like there needs to be something done. There needs to be moves made. I agree. Like when's that big trade coming? We saw them pull the trigger last winter. Curious if that comes at any point this winter, in the spring, whenever it may be. I agree. I do wonder. I don't know. Maybe there's enough rumblings with Bregman that'll get done before the spring.
Yeah.
But there'll probably be something that we're talking about. There's going to be a move. There's going to be something still happening in the spring that we're covering, and the roster isn't fully settled by the time pitchers and catchers. It used to be you didn't have to worry about this stuff, and that era kind of seems gone. We'll see if the new CBA changes that at all, but certainly something that I feel like we're just going to be talking about for a while here, and I think there's pressure on them to make these things happen because, like I said at the start, like they have this kind of they even view it as a 2-year window. This isn't something that we're kind of throwing out there. They see this. They are aware of their contract status. They are aware of what's going on, what type of team they have right now. And I think it's interesting to think about some of the players that are coming up. I know he's not beloved by every fan, but Ian Happ is a career Cub, and like, is this his final run with the Cubs? What does that look like for him? What kind of season can he put together? And of course, the name. I think fans. There's nobody that's in this fan base that has bad things to say about Nico Horner. I would guess. Consummate teammate, consummate player, like the type of guy that you want on your team. We reported earlier this winter about teams asking about him, and sure enough, there was a report in the San Francisco Chronicle by Susan Slusser, I believe, that the Giants are asking about Nico Horner. It would make a ton of sense, but he's from the Bay Area. They can. He can help any team looking to win. For my money, I just don't see like a point in moving him. But again, when you're at this point with so many free agents coming up, you have to entertain these things. Any pending free agent, you kind of have to listen. That's a very Cleveland philosophy, and Carter Hawkins obviously has brought that with him from Cleveland. I don't think it's a bad thing to have an open mind. I do think it would look optically be really rough, and it may take a little while for anyone to see it, the fruits of a move like that if it were to go down.
Yeah, I think
Which I think is really unlikely, by the way. I want to just emphasize that. I think we both feel this is a very unlikely thing to happen.
Yeah, I am curious as the winter plays out, like, could they trade someone on an expiring deal? I'm sure they'll entertain it. I still think that'd be a hard thing to execute. I still think Nico Horner is someone you probably discuss a contract extension with. I don't know if that's happened
like that
yet, or if they wait a bit and know that they'd probably have a pretty good shot at matching or getting something done in free agency as well. I still think, looking ahead to kind of spring training, I think a Pete Crow Armstrong extension is something that will likely be discussed. I think it's that kind of window of spring training before opening day. That's usually a time when teams and agents and players get together on those sorts of things once the arbitration cycle goes through, once those final free agents are off the board, you can kind of look internally, look ahead, and do it in a way that you try and take the distraction off the table one way or another to get some sort of clarity or resolution. I believe it was around opening day in Tokyo last year when Pete was considering some concepts. We don't have all the details, but that was a general uh timeline. And and then I think it also, I mean, you've written about this a lot recently, Sahadev, like dude, where's the pitching? And I think that'll be a fascinating, like, kind of going back over our notes. I feel like we've covered a lot of different sort of itinerations here of the Cubs trying to figure out that pitching pipeline, and there has been progress, there has been success stories. There are different ways to do it. See the 2016 World Series. So we're not um thinking about this one dimensionally. It's just kind of obvious that there's not a whole lot coming. And maybe that's fine if Kate Horton like contends for the Cy Young every year for the next 6 years, and Jackson Wiggins follows Horton's path and is pitching in the big leagues, pitching big innings, big moments in the big leagues this year. And they add a nice, medium long term piece to the rotation via free agency or trade this offseason. All of that could happen. But like they've acknowledged that it's an issue.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly it happened. There were some
Yeah.
names that I think had been traded over the past couple of years. They haven't turned into top prospects, but they were valuable enough to be used in trades. Ty Johnson comes to mind, a guy that they moved to get Isaac Paredes. I'm probably missing a few. But there's been arms that have been traded that are like, oh, that's an interesting guy. Oh, look, he added 5 miles per hour to his fastball over the past 3 years. Those guys don't exist in the system. It's Jackson Wiggins, then a steep decline in talent. Something that I had heard was the Cubs were like a bottom 5 team this past season in velocity gained. That was something that they changed drastically under Craig Breslow. This was a focus. This was something that was a major issue with the Cubs during the Theo years, during their best years, and it was a complaint within the organization. They're bringing in guys, and nobody's adding stuff. Nobody's adding velocity. Where is the player development? And I don't know if it's like one thing leads to another. Craig Breslow leaves, this happens. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Is this player development? Is this draft? There are things that I've heard from outside the organization that, like I don't love these drafts. I got a lot of that this past draft of I liked their strategy. I don't know if I love the players that they selected in that strategy. Why Where are the upside swings for pitching? There's who's going to work with, like, or where's the talent to work with? uh so you know some things need to change, and they're making changes. I will say that was something that we didn't see as much in the previous years, in the last decade, as much of like there weren't changes made. It took a while before Theo finally made some sweeping changes. Uh and now there are changes being made, and don't want to act like Tyler Zombro can fix everything. Obviously, we've talked about him a lot on this podcast. Uh and there's a reason for that. Like he's a pretty big part of this front office, and he's being tasked with some pretty big things. Uh, I don't know if he can fix everything. I don't know how long it takes to make changes and get things on the right path, if he can get them on the right path. I will say he's respected in the baseball world, and you can do enough that changes can show up pretty quickly. Uh, I felt like they did under Breslow. We started to see almost immediate changes, and went from like how come we never see a pitcher developed to here's Edward Alzolay, here's Justin Steele, here's Keegan Thompson. Did all those players turn into great players and stars? No. Uh, but we just weren't seeing that. Javier Assad, now Cade Horton. Uh, we'll see. We'll see where this leads. I think for me, that they have acknowledged the issue, are aware of it, and are addressing it. That's like, you just need to see that. You can't be in denial that like things are fine. We have Cade Horton, Jackson Wiggins is coming. Look at we developed Justin Steele. You're not hearing excuses, and I think that's what you want to see. You want to see them say like, okay, this isn't going well enough for us. Because if you're not developing pitching, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened, and it's sunk a much more talented core.
Yeah.
It sunk them, and this whole thing is being built on player development. If you don't develop talent, if you're not going to spend like the Cubs and flex your financial might, then you have to develop talent. So you got to get this right, and I think there's some what's the word I'm looking for? They're being aggressive about it, and there's some fire here, and they're trying to make things happen.
Yeah, I think that previous core you're talking about had a little bit more talent, right? It was like basically the youngest core to like win a World Series ever. And here we're talking about a core where like maybe roughly half the everyday players are going to be free agents in several months. So I'm curious to see this year. You mentioned Justin Steele. He is to me a fun pitcher to watch. Just seeing how fans engage with him on social media, him screaming in the dugout a couple of years ago in Milwaukee. I think he spoke for a lot of Cubs fans. I think it was his wake up, screaming. I think there was another word thrown in there. And the return of Shota Imanaga, like for me, I think it's been a good year. I believe in what we've seen for like 10 of his 12 months as a Cubs pitcher, or whatever, 12 months of over 2 seasons, however you want to break it down. I think the way Craig Counsell talked about him, how motivated he is, I think anyone who's encountered Shota understands where he's coming from on that. We've seen him make these adjustments before. You don't want to use injuries as an excuse, but if that set off a tiny change on that whole chain of mechanics that have to happen for him to be effective in the majors, maybe it is a relatively simple fix. And if you have Steele and Shota, you go out and add another pitcher, and an unidentified pitcher this offseason. We still don't know who that is yet. Boyd, Tyone, Colin Ray. Like, I have a hard time seeing the 2026 season going off the rails. I think they do have enough credible starting pitching. I think the bullpen will frustrate people in April. Eventually they'll figure it out with guys we've never heard of before. And then just the Jed having his contract extension, Craig Counsell being one of the most established managers in the game, very professional group of players. I don't see it snowballing with like off the field stuff or distractions or personality conflicts. Like, that does not mean the Cubs are winning like 100 games and like dusting the Brewers. But with his extra wild card, like, meaningful baseball in September almost feels automatic. I know it doesn't work like that in baseball, but I just have a hard time seeing them like losing 90 games or being on that sort of track, where they sell at the deadline. Like, they should be in it for the long haul here. And then it's just a matter of being healthy, getting the right breaks. And At what point do they sort of go outside their comfort zone and maybe do a big move that shakes things up?
Yeah, I mean, I agree on a lot of that. Outside of injuries, just hitting them hard, um, there is a core here, and I know fans just think like losing Kyle Tucker means it's a huge step back, and you can't just assume that the young players take steps forward. Everyone stays healthy. I do believe that there's a lot of young talent here that can hold serve on the offensive side. Maybe not have a top 5 offense, but a top 10 offense with you have to add on pitching. But I do believe that there's a step forward coming from Cade Horton. What I saw from that guy this past season, like he's the one that if I'm watching anyone in this staff, I agree with everything you said. Like I think Shota will bounce back. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm curious to see how Justin Steele looks when he's healthy. But Cade Horton showed me
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
I was just so impressed by everything, both on the field and off the field, that I think something special is coming with this kid. I don't like being hyperbolic and saying, this guy, just assuming stardom for young players when they show flashes. Uh, but it was the complete package, and that's why I'm impressed. He got better with each start. The strikeouts started to come. You look at the overall numbers and you think he's not striking out enough guys. They started to come, and he learned how to pitch in the big leagues. He expanded his arsenal, like to do that all in one season, to add pitches,
Yeah.
to use them differently, to learn how to command your pitches better and what parts of the zone to attack hitters, and to have like these mental challenges. The Houston start, everyone talked about that, and that did not sink his confidence. It made him tougher. Uh, I really have a ton of respect for the kid and think special things are coming for him. And I think just on the offensive side, I really want to know, like, I don't, maybe we don't get an answer to this. Maybe up and down is his career, but Pico Armstrong, those two halves were so fascinating to cover, and just like that second half was a lot of questions spring up from that. And I don't think it's this is a disaster and he can't handle the moment as much as how does he learn from this? What kind of player can he be? How consistent can he get? Um, can he reach those highs a little bit more consistently and spread it out over a full season? And what can he learn from the struggles and kind of bottle that up, take those lessons? There's one thing that, like as crazy as he can seem sometimes, as undisciplined, I guess, as he can seem at times. Uh, I think his teammates really like him, and they
Yeah.
know that, like, hey, look, it can sometimes be a little immature, and why he's a kid, he's still young, he's still learning, but he's learning. He wants to learn. He wants to get better. He wants to. How do I improve in all facets of the game, whether it's on the field or smashing my helmet or getting ticked after a rough at bat, whatever it may be. He wants to get better at all that stuff, and that's something that I'm curious to see how that unfolds. And ultimately, I think it's what everyone's waiting for. It's like what is, and it's what we kind of started this with. Like, what are you going to do to
Yeah.
make this not the cliff? Like, is it going to be some trade that adds talent? So now it's like, okay, yeah, look, uh, Owen Casey's taking a step forward. Feel good about him stepping in at left field if that's the case, or right field for Saya. Ballesteros is your everyday DH. Say it's the kids. You go with a lot of kids, but is there a deal to be made to kind of extend, like, add some pitching and, like, cover the gap of, like, okay, well, the pitching development isn't where we want it to be right now, but here's how we cover the gap. We got a young,
Yep.
controllable pitcher, and him with Cade Horton and Justin Steele, we have pitching for the next couple years. Uh, what is it? What are you going to do? Are you going to sign Alex Bregman, and now you have Dansby Swanson and Alex Bregman as your cornerstone veterans? Is that, are they going to extend Nico Horner? What is it? What are you going to do? How are you going to extend this so it's not the cliff? Uh, we'll see what it is. I don't know if there's a hard and fast answer coming in the next month. If it'll be during the season, what we're gonna see, but it's a fascinating season in so many levels. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about the CBA a year from now. Hopefully, it doesn't eat into games, but that's a depressing thought for another day.
Yeah, we'll leave negative town and say thank you to all of our readers and listeners and the great behind the scenes people at the Foul Territory Network who are on like 24/7, always hustling to put out a ton of shows around the clock. And these shows don't happen without the passion from our listeners and readers who give us this great opportunity to cover a team that people really care about. We see it in the numbers, and we thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you to everyone behind the scenes putting in all that work. Happy holidays to all of you. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate the support. It has been great to see over the past almost 2 years now that we've been doing this show. Everyone really supporting this show, and we're growing with each episode, and we appreciate you guys listening and spreading the word. Hope to hear a lot more Cubs news in the new year, and we'll talk to you then. Well, no, we'll talk to you before the new year. We'll talk to you after Christmas time. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Happy holidays.